Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm your host, Gordon Mack. It's a solo podcast today and unique. Kevin's still on paternity leave. We'll be back to our regular scheduling next week. We'll do pods live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then ultimately getting ready for the Olympic Games, where we'll go live every day of the Olympics and reacting to all the craziness that Team USA will put on the track. I just want to do a quick recap of what we've seen kind of in the track world, and then we have two special guests. Some interviews I conducted with USA men's track and field head coach Mike Holloway, also the Florida coach, obviously, and Hobbs Kessler, who just recently announced that he has won the Gatorade Player of the Year for men's track and field. So got to talk to him for a little bit. But first, I want to kind of recap what's happened over the weekend and a few days. Notably, it's been the Europe Summer of Kate Grace. I mean, she just ran another Diamond League win. She ran 4:27 to win the mile, albeit it was against not as deep of a field in that women's mile. But when you take this 4:27 season's best of a mile and you add it to her 3 other 800-meter runs, it's an incredible 4-race performance in Europe for Kate Grace. You never see this type of 4-race run from someone who got 7th at the trials and then have like 4 incredible races back to back to back to back. Kate Grace officially looking good on the track, and I talked about it as soon as she ran her first 1:57 back in her first of the 4 races, and I said, hey, we need to figure out a better way to select our teams. And obviously I'm playing devil's advocate. I like the top 3. I think we should keep top 3. But what I was trying to point out is that the U.S. trial system top 3 leaves out great runners sometimes. And we're seeing that right here with Kate Grace. Now, I wouldn't replace her with anyone that was in that top 3 at USA, because I think we have a great team with Athing Mu, Ajay Wilson, and Raven Rogers. However, I will say there's going to be a lot of other people at the Olympics who are not American that Kate Grace is better than. And it's just because the state of our sport where we choose to make the most important event be a 3-per-country contest, something that doesn't happen at Wimbledon, doesn't happen at the Masters. There's more than 3 Americans at the Masters or Wimbledon. But, hey, this is what we do. It's the Olympics. That's what makes the trials so much fun with all the drama. Also, not sure if this is a big deal or not, but the men's 800 on the U.S. side, coming off of the trials, we were looking good. Clayton Murphy looked like a world beater, looked like he was in contention to win not just another medal in the 8, but potentially win gold. And he's had a couple dud races, and now throw in Bryce Hoppel, who's had a couple dud races. Should we be worried about the men's 800 at the Olympic Games for Team USA? Look at this notable result from, I guess it was just Gateshead on Tuesday. Bryce Hoppel finishes 5th in 145. Murphy finishes 6th in 145. And Isaiah Harris, who was 4th at the trials, wins it in 144. It wasn't that good of a field either, so it's not like Murphy and Hoppel will get beaten by, Nigel Amos and Emmanuel Corrier. It was kind of it's a field that you expect Murphy and or Hoppel to win, and they're just not having a great European season right now. But hey, our sport is weird, right? You can have these streaks of just subpar performances, and it doesn't mean anything because Hoppel and Murphy are just only going to be judged based off how they did USA's and how they do at the Olympics. So you can kind of worry about it. Murphy, I'm probably less worried about because he has shown that he's really good at rounds. Hoppel, I don't know. He was 3rd at the trials. He has yet to really put together a dominant 143, 144 type performance for a win. So I'm more concerned for Hoppel than I am for Murphy. Murphy, I think he's a vet. He's going to figure out a way to make the Olympic final and put together his best race then. But hey, it's weird. And Isaiah Harris, another non-Olympian, just winning Diamond Leagues. So if you want to win a Diamond League, you just have to not qualify for the Olympics. That's how it works. Because apparently that's how Isaiah Harris and Kate Grace are getting it done. Anyway, want to talk a little bit about what we have coming up. We have two recorded interviews, one with Mike Holloway. Now, it is a press conference, but it kind of gave some interesting tidbits. I asked Mike Holloway about the relay selection process because that's always controversial. I asked Mike about whether or not he thinks that USA, the Olympics should be a team competition. Like, hey, should they announce a team champion? And gave his takes on that. And some other reporters were on the presser. They asked about Mike Holloway's past, where he was working at a taco truck. Anyway, it's pretty interesting. And then after that, we'll have a interview with Hobbs Kessler, who, like I said earlier in the pod, just won Gatorade Athlete of the Year. Back-to-back NAU signees winning Gatorade Athlete of the Year. Nico Young won last year. Hobbs Kessler wins this year. However, Hobbs, he's a pro. I asked him about if he regrets turning pro because a name, image, likeness is now legal in the NCAA. I asked him about his season as a whole and what his goals in 2022 are, and just a good overall. Yeah, I'm excited for what he's going to do. The vibe I got after that interview was Hobbs is going to lick his wounds from that Olympic trial semifinal performance and come back stronger in January of 2022. So it should be fun to watch. So enjoy those two interviews. And before we get into these interviews, get a little housekeeping. We will have one more pod on Friday with a special guest. He's an Olympian. He's also a U.S. trials champion. His name is Paul Chalimo. So we'll have him on Friday. And then, like I said, we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming with Kevin back in the pod sphere, talking track. And hey, I haven't told anyone this, but I think I'm going to be gambling these Olympic championships or Olympic games. There are 44 events. I think I might put $100 on every event and be willing to spend $4,400 to see if I can make some little dough. Because you would think someone who follows track and field all the time would know more than the lines bettors who never really put betting lines on track. They're always busy with football, baseball, basketball. I feel like I'll have a competitive advantage. We'll find out. You'll get to watch my highs and lows of whether I come out of the Olympics richer than ever or come out of the Olympics out $4,000. We'll see what happens. So we'll talk a little bit about that next week. See if I can get Kevin to bet his house on Noah Lyles again. Anyway, enjoy these two interviews, and we'll see you again on Friday. What specifically is the process or your role involved with the formation of the two relay teams, the 4x1 and the 4x4?
I mean, it's going to be a group collaboration with myself, with Daryl Woodson, with Orrin Richburg and his assistant, Michelle Freeman. What we've decided to do, even with the women's staff, we're trying to make this a group effort. That's not a women's team and a men's team. It's the United States of America Olympic team. So we're all working together, and we'll just diligently go through it and try to make the best decisions possible for the USA to be very successful.
Is there a certain criteria that you guys like? Do you know now who your team's going to be, or is this something that gets formulated halfway through the meet once the individual events are starting to come to a close?
Well, I think the process was, what they did at the championships themselves, at the trials. That's what the trials are for, to help, weed through all this stuff. And so the big thing is, you've got a pool of people based on the performances at the trials, and then obviously it's athletics, things happen. So if we had to pull people in, anybody that's on the team is eligible to participate in the relay. So if we needed to run Ryan Krauser, we could, but they have to be a part of the team. They have to be a part of the team as a whole, or they can't participate. But, we're not going to overcomplicate this thing. And I think that people have to understand it's one medal. And I think that's something that's been a problem in the past, is everybody gets obsessed with the relays. There's 21 other events out there that we do and we do well. So the focus of this team is to get everybody ready, or help them get ready to perform well in their events. And the relays will take care of themselves as long as we let them take care of themselves.
Now that this is finally getting close, and I haven't talked to you about when was the first time you ever went to the Olympic Games?
My first actual games was 1996 in Atlanta.
Okay, and here we are, 25 years later, you're the head coach. I mean, what does this mean to you just to be in this role, and with all you've done in track?
I mean, it's an incredible honor, and I'll be honest with you, as I've with lots of people, I never thought about being the head Olympic coach. I always wanted to be a coach of Olympians. And when I got the call and it was official, I was going to be the head coach. I mean, it's very humbling, to be honest with you, when you're asked to, lead the best team on the planet. It's just an incredible honor. So, yeah, I mean, get a little goosebumps when you think about stuff like that.
And what do you remember? What were you doing at those 96 games in Atlanta? What was your role up there?
Oh, I was coaching Dennis Mitchell, who ended up, I think he was fourth in the 100 at those games. So it was kind of bittersweet. My first Olympics, my guy was the first one out of the medal count. So, but it gave me reason to kind of come back stronger later on. So it was good.
And last quick one for me is just, I mean, there's been so much, recent developments with the Olympics, no fans now. I mean, how do you kind of just go into this? Does it help being in a routine? Just whatever comes is going to come, but what's your mentality like as it really gets here?
I mean, you know me, I'm a man of faith. And so, I'm going to pray about it and, ask God to cover me and everybody else on the team. And I trust the USA Track and Field staff and the medical people involved with USA Track and Field to make sure that we're doing everything to keep everybody safe. I'm going to get on the plane. I'm going to go over there and coach my butt off and come back home. That's what I'm going to do.
Along those lines, you were coaching Dennis Mitchell in 96. All these athletes have their own either college coaches or individual coaches. What, as a head coach, what is your role? How much actually hands-on coaching will you do for these guys? How much more administrative?
And as far as the hands-on things, I've got 6 or 7 athletes myself. I'll be there coaching, but
right.
My role as the head coach is to make sure I take care of, all the official stuff, the bureaucratic stuff, the paperwork and all those kind of things, and make sure that we give all the athletes that are competing there and their personal coaches all the tools they need to be successful. That's so we keep obstacles out of their way. It's no different than my role here, University of Florida. I just happen to be doing it for people that I don't coach on a daily basis. And so my job is to make sure that they have everything they need to come out there and compete at a high level so they can, go after their dreams. That's my job.
You're still coaching Grant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you handicap his chances and how you see him coming out of this if he performs up to his capability?
Yeah, that was a kind of a backhanded way of trying to get me to predict something.
Yeah.
I don't do predictions. I will tell you this, that we believe that if Grant executes at a high level, he'll be hard to beat. I'll just leave it at that. Grant is a phenomenal athlete. We all know that. I don't put pressure on my athletes to perform at a certain level and run a certain time. My total goal with Grant is to make sure that he executes at a high level. If Grant goes out there and does his best and someone beats him, then they were just better than us that day. But my goal is to make sure that Grant's at his best for 3 more flights of hurdles.
Yeah. I read where way back in the day, after you got out of Santa Fe, that when you were coaching, I guess you're a volunteer coach at GHS or UF, or where you were also working were you the manager at the Crystal and a taco stand?
Wow, man, you did your research, didn't you? Yeah, I was. I was actually an employee at Crystals. I managed a place called Taco Nacho. I was at one point I was an assistant coach at Gainesville High School and a head coach in cross country there. And then I moved over to Buoltz High School where I started as the head men's coach at Buoltz, and then I ended up being the head boys and girls coach, and then the head boys and girls cross country coach, and then I transferred here to Florida. So yeah, I definitely did manage a place called Taco Nacho here in town.
What do you remember about that? Was that the kind of job you look back on it and you say, I'm glad I did that, and I learned a lot? It was humbling, or?
Well, the thing I remember about Taco Nacho the most was that the food was too good and I ate too much. I put on a lot of weight. So, but other than that, I mean, I met some great people. There's some people that I still call, they're still friends of mine, and it was a good time. But yes, it was humbling because back then I didn't have much, and I remember having to walk to work sometimes. I remember having to walk home after work at 1 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. So yeah, very humbling. Definitely something I don't want to ever have to do again if I can avoid it. So
is that the kind of thing that runs through your mind when you arrive at a plateau where you are now? And I'm sure it's hit you before, because it's not like you're new to being a big time coach, but this is when you go and you're the head coach of the U.S. Olympic track team, that's about as high as it gets for a man in your profession.
I mean, for me, to be honest with you, David, like I'm a grinder. Anybody that knows me, if I wake up in the morning, I'm coming in to get better. So I don't think about my past. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed that I was able to move on from that situation, but it took a lot of hard work and dedication on my part. And so my job is to make sure when I get up every morning to continue that grind, to continue working hard. It'll be no different than when we get to Tokyo. I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to have things that I have to do every morning. I'm going to make sure I go out every day and do what I'm supposed to do. And as long as I keep that mindset, I'm going to be fine. I never worry about things that are out of my control. Like I said, we have a phenomenal staff, a phenomenal staff at USA Track and Field that will make sure that I have everything I need to do my job so I can help everybody else do theirs.
How will you come away from this games measuring success? I mean, it's probably not just as simple as number of gold medals won. What will be your gauge, your metric?
My gauge for me is if I make sure that I do my job. The athletes I have, if I prepared them well, the other athletes on the team that I'm, they're in charge to make sure that they get the things they need, that we don't make mistakes as far as not getting people the call rooms, not giving people the equipment they need to make sure they can be successful. As long as I go out there and work hard every day and do my best, I can walk away with my head held high. So it's not about medals. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if we go out there and perform well, we're going to have a lot of great performances with this team. It's a young team that's phenomenally talented. And I think the big thing for us is just to be there for them and help them, again, get to where they need to be when they need to be there. If we do that, we're going to have a great games.
Yeah, one last one. Is it nice in a way not having Usain Bolt hovering over the games? Like he's been such a dominating presence the last 3 Olympics. And I mean, he's great to watch, but I imagine as a competitor, as someone who wants to win what he's winning, it also made it sort of tough to convince, or was it tough to convince guys, you think, to say, hey, I can, because U.S. has been traditionally so good at sprints, but with him there, reality was that you were going to have to really perform great to beat Jamaica. Is it a little bit different this time around?
Well, I mean, I don't think that, I know for me anyway, I never focused on what Bolt was doing. I mean, he was a phenomenal guy to watch. He brought great attention and great publicity to the sport. But, there were 7 other lanes out there, and you had to line up and do your job. And we got a lot of medals behind Bolt. And he pushed some of our guys to great performances during that time. So I personally think he was great for the sport. And, we've got some young people that are coming up that could be that next kind of presence in the sport. I think it's great because when you have such a great standard bearer, it makes everybody below them work harder. It doesn't discourage them, it encourages them to work harder. So, no, I had never had a problem with Bolt. He was a great ambassador for the sport, and I'm glad he came along.
What does it feel like to see the journey of past athletes you worked with in their collegiate careers at UF progress to now training with you again for the Olympics?
I mean, it's a wonderful thing to watch. We talk about these things in the recruiting process. We kind of have what we call a pathway to success. We talk about them during the recruiting process. So to go back and look at that path we talked about being on and seeing people realize that, it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I mean, once you're a Gator, you're part of this family forever. There's no such thing as a former Gator. You're a Gator great. And the fact that we have able to watch these young people continue to pursue their dreams it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah. And then following up on that, you've worked with Taylor Manson this past season in UF's 4x400 relay. How does it feel to now be coaching her for the 4x400 Olympic relay team?
I mean, I am extremely excited for Spider because she indoors didn't go quite the way she wanted. And we had a talk afterwards, and she said, she's always told me she wanted to be an Olympian. I said, just remember, there are no indoor Olympics. So your goal of being an Olympian is still out there. And the great thing about her was she trusted me. I trusted her. We trusted her training, and she was right when she needed to be. And she's now an Olympian. So I'm extremely excited to see her compete here in a few weeks.
Well, your career has been based around preparing to win team championships, whether it's an indoor team championship or an outdoor team championship. You're thinking about points, thinking about how to get people in different finals. Do you believe that the Olympic Games, track and field, should have a team championship aspect to it? Coming from someone in the NCAA where that's all you're really thinking about, priority, do you think Olympics should consider crowning a team champion?
Well, I mean, let me correct you on something first. I don't sit around worrying about how to get team points, to be honest with you. My goal is always to make sure my athletes are ready to perform at a high level. That stuff takes care of itself. And do I think that the team aspect of the Olympics might bring a little bit more excitement to it? But if you're honest with it, the U.S. is very dominant through every Olympiad. So if we make that a team competition, like he just said about Bolt, how dominant are we going to be? I think that we have a wonderful product with the Olympic Games, and I don't think that it's something we need to tinker with too much. I think we need to keep doing what we're doing, promoting the way we're promoting it. There's a lot of bright young stars out there, and changing the Olympic Games in the format might push some of our fan base away. I'm not sure, but I happen to like it the way it is. So I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, but I'm not sure a team thing is really what's needed in the Olympic Games, honestly.
Coach, obviously these Olympics are going to be very, very different from any in the past with the COVID restrictions, the lack of opening ceremonies and so forth. It seems like it would be pretty challenging to give the athletes the feeling, the experience of not just being a collection of individuals, but being actually a team. What can you do, or what are you planning to do to kind of enhance that experience for the athletes? Are you going to have team meetings? Will there be a chance for everybody to be together at one time? How's that looking?
I'm not sure about the team meeting and how that will or will not be handled. But as I just said to Gordon, this is not about a team aspect. The team aspect is everybody coming together. We are the United States of America, and everybody understanding how special it is to put that uniform on. So that will be my message, is, remember the hard work, the dedication, all the things you did to get here, to be an Olympian. Now come here and just be who you are. If you're a 9.7 guy, be your 9.7 guy. If you're a 20 flat, 19.8, whatever you run the 200, be that guy. Whatever you run, if you're a women's 400 meter girl and you run 49 seconds, be who you are and you'll be successful. The mistakes that are made are when people come and try to be something and do something that they're not ready for, or be somebody that they're not, and worry about somebody that's in lane 6. If you're in lane 7, take care of lane 7. I think that's a big thing I always tell my athletes, and that will be my message to anybody I talk to while we're in Tokyo, is just be who you are. I think it's the old thing, dance with the girl you brought to the dance. You'll be fine.
Just one follow-up. I wonder if you have all of the protocol from the local organizing committee. Do you know what the situation is going to be like on the ground when you get there in terms of training and so forth?
Like I said, we have a wonderful staff at USATF, and they've given us all that stuff. It would take me a long time to even try to explain it, so I'm not going to. But I am very confident in the protocols that have been set forth, and that everybody's going to be fine. I think that you can't control. I'm big on controlling my space, so we're going to control what we can control with USATF, and what we do, what other countries do. That's kind of on them. We just have to make sure we take care of us.
Can you just talk about what it's going to be like to have some of your former teammates like Eddie Lovett, who you're used to coaching, now going against the U.S., who won't be on the U.S. team? What is that going to be like for you to go against them? Is it going to be a little bit weird?
Well, actually, I still coach Eddie, so it won't be weird at all. But it's not like that. It's not like this head to head. I got to beat you down type of thing. This is the Olympic Games. Just the fact that you can walking out of. To me, to watch a first time Olympian. This is Eddie's second Olympiad, so it won't be that way for him. But like for Taylor or Denisha Anderson, who's with the Bahamas. Those folks who's their first one, just watching the excitement in their eyes when they walk out on the track. That's what this is about. Grant and Eddie have raced against each other tons of times. This is not what that's about. My goal as a coach is to make sure that Eddie's prepared to do his best, Grant's prepared to do his best, and anybody that I physically coach, that I make sure I've done my job to make sure they're ready to do their job. And if they do that, wherever they finish, they finish. As long as they go out there and they do the best, I'm good with it. Congrats
on winning Gatorade Track Athlete of the Year. First and most important question is, what's your favorite Gatorade flavor?
Thank you. I like lemon lime is my favorite, but I prefer the powder Gatorade to the store-bought stuff. But
how much? So you have like that big jug of powder Gatorade that you go through?
Yeah, that I prefer that. I think it tastes way better.
How long does that last you? A week? A day?
Yeah. I don't know. My mom, I just remember my mom would always have it when she was training for marathons. So it's got a little bit of a sentimental thing.
So obviously your season kind of came to an end a few weeks ago. You've had some time to kind of reflect on an incredible senior year. What do you take away most from this breakout senior season that you had?
Just all the people that have been looking out for me and helping me along has been super special. And it was a pretty magical season. Like, I don't know if I'll ever have a season like where everything just goes my way. I would say with the exception of the Olympic trials, like everything went how I wanted it to go. So it was like one of those fairy tale seasons. So pretty crazy. I'm still like a little bit in awe of what went down, and trying to like wrap my head around it.
When you look at your year, you can kind of point to like your first sub-4 or running that 3:34 at Portland, or, competing well at the Olympic trials. If you take those like notable performances outside of it, what will you kind of remember most outside of like these big news flashy type headline performances?
I would say the 4x8 as far as like races and performances, the 4x8 at the state meet, Michigan State meet was a big one, just because me and the guys on the team had worked for it. Like we put it on our calendar and worked for it all year, and we're super close and gave a really good effort. And that was something I was really proud of us as a team for doing well at that, and really giving it a go. And then also going to Myrtle Beach and running a 2-mile was fun, because it was like a guy's trip down there with my coach Ron and his son. We had a lot of fun doing that too.
So obviously you kind of made headlines where you decided to forgo college eligibility and sign with Adidas. And then a month later, the NCAA announced name, image, likeness was now legal, where you can be paid for your likeness. Was there any thought in the back of your mind of, hey, maybe I could have signed with Adidas after this and I could have been paid to still go to college and, find a way to get a contract with Adidas through name, image, likeness?
No, I'm really happy with the way everything worked out, and it worked out like really well for me. And obviously I'm bummed not to be coached by Coach Smith and be on the team with all those people. Like I really like the guys on the team, and so I am really disappointed about that. But closing that door kind of opens up the door for me to stay in my current situation with Mason Furlick and Ron Warhurst and the very nice crew. So I was really sad about leaving them, and so now I get to stay and kind of keep with that, which I'm super excited about. So one door's closed, another one's open, but I'm not super worried about the NCAA stuff because the decision's been made, and I'm really happy with the path I'm on.
So you're still going to enroll at NAU, correct?
Mm-hmm. For the fall semester.
Are there any plans to train or do some like side workouts with the NAU team? Maybe even be like a honorary team manager or something like that?
Yeah. I would love to be as involved as I can. And I can still I'm still rooming with my the signees in my class and stuff. So involved as the NCAA allows, but I don't want to bend any rules or anything. And early on in the recruiting, the coaches at NAU were told me we're gonna take care of you as a person first and foremost, and then as an athlete secondhand. And I was like, yeah, that's just what coaches say and stuff. But they've really rung true to that. I would say Coach Smith and Coach Cornfield have looked out for me a lot, even though I'll never score points for NAU. So just still having them present in my life, I'm super grateful for. And yeah, hopefully I can be involved in some capacity. We're still trying to work that out. But great. I'm so proud. Great people, great program. I'm glad to have my name even affiliated with it. So
do you plan on doing any more races later in the summer?
No, my season's shut down. I ran out of emotional bandwidth, I think, at the end there on that last round. It kind of came crumbling crumbling down. So calling it down, kind of wrapping my head around all the things that happen and recharging.
So now that have this off season, altitude training in the fall, what would you define success as for you in 2022? Typically, you're not this far along on your timeline at this young of age where you're, running 334, you're making a semifinal at USA's. So what would you define as success or your goals in 2022?
Well, my goal is to make the world championship team is the biggest goal, but I just want to keep improving and keep learning because I am still young and the other guys are going to be more developed and stuff. So as long as I'm improving and stay healthy and keep learning, I'm happy. But again, I would like to run really fast and make the team.
Is there anything that you can take away that you think will be a difference maker for you when you step on that starting line at the US champs in 2022 that you'll now know better or be more prepared for that you weren't prepared for here in this first go around at the trials?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference will be I'll have gone through a season as an elite runner already because everything was new this year. I started it as like a 420 guy and then ended as a 350s guy. So it just like everything kept changing and I never was in like a steady place. So being like in a not more stable, but knowing kind of where I am in running and having been through everything once, I think will be the biggest difference.
What you're going to watch the Olympics? I'm assuming coming up in a few weeks.
Yep, I gotta watch my boy Mason. He's ready to go.
And Nick, right? Your honorary training partner.
Yeah.
Nick. When you look at the men's 1500 meter team, you have a good team. It's a young team, with the exception of Centro, with Hawker and Nagus. How do you think the U.S. 1500 meter runners are going to do at the Olympics?
Well, those guys like continue to like blow my mind of how good they are. Hawker and Nagus, like all of them. So they're all amazing runners. So I think sky's the limit. Like I wouldn't be surprised if any one of them picked up a medal. Yeah, they're so far along in their running. It was pretty impressive. And even I think Hawker, like being in the call room and stuff, he was very mature for his age. So I don't think he'll have a hard time. With everything being new, because he was like sitting in the call room, like he was like the most relaxed one in there, while everyone else was all anxious and pacing around. Last
question. Obviously, what you've done is very historical. You're top of multiple lists all time as a high school athlete. Do you feel like what you did was once in a generation type performance? Like, what's your perspective on your accomplishments? Do you think it's out of body, like, whoa, I never thought I could do this? Or as you went through the season, these times as you running felt normal for what you were doing?
I mean, I don't think it was a fluke at all. I think after running 357, where I was like fitness wise and experience wise, I knew I could run a lot faster. I just needed the right opportunity. So I don't know, like we'll see how it goes in the future, because I did have a really special setup and got really, really lucky in terms of having elites to train with and a really good coach, but while also being able to compete in high school seasons. So maybe if the stars align for someone else like they align for me, it could happen again. But I don't really have enough perspective to know like if this was a one generation thing or if it'll happen more often. I was just running hard, and that's what happened. So
cool, Hobbs. Well, thanks for taking the time, and congrats again on winning Gatorade Player of the Year.
Thank you.